What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brodt. Read This Book podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Duncan.
And I'm your other host, Matthew Meadows.
And
guess what?
Guys,
We have our first guest here on episode 15 of the Bro Read This Book podcast. The Halloween Spooktacular 2023. Our good friend, Josie Tegethoff.
Hello.
We've known Josie for a really long time.
a long
A very long
freaking time.
But guess what? So she's on the show for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
The spookiest person I know.
Thank you.
She's a paranormal investigator, which we'll get more into as to what that means, what that looks like. And at the end, stick around for a spooky little ghost story that actually happened to Josie on an investigation. Me personally, kind of a skeptic when it comes to the ghosties.
We can change that.
But
Don't try too hard right now.
But every time I talk to Josie, I get a little bit closer to believing in ghosts, like for real. So I don't know. Maybe by the end of the show, I'll believe in ghosts, or you'll get me to go on an investigation with you, which I will document if that ever happens. Don't worry, I know you want to see it. If that were ever to come into fruition. Yeah, Josie, we're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Steven, how's it going, man?
You know what? It's still going.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all you can say.
Yep. You remember a few episodes back, which is saying something because we've taken a break and we only record every 2 weeks. So a few episodes back, we were talking about car issues.
Yeah.
We're still having car issues.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like, I think 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
That
So
was before
like
we started
a year
recording
ago.
the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might as well have been.
It feels like a year ago.
I believe it, man. You've had a crazy month or two.
Been a rough go of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be coming on the upswing though, right? Ideally.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I will say this. Pretty much every other aspect of life has been pretty solid.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I've had a crazy month as well.
You have.
I've been so busy.
Mm-hmm.
I've had no free time to do anything, which is why later on I'll tell you why I had to read this book in a day.
You really did. You
Yeah.
got like maybe an eighth of the way
Yeah.
through, and then you finished it
Finished
in
it
a
in one day. I don't know when I'm gonna have time to finish this. It's also really good. So I can't. I have to finish it today. But yeah, so we just did a performance. We did a fundraiser for the theater that I work at and perform with. It went really well. Just very rewarding, very encouraging to have a lot of people come out from the community and support. And then I've just been we had Tech Week, and then I teach a class, and I have other shows that I'm working on, and then I work my actual job, and we do this. And so it's been a wacky couple weeks. Specifically, the last 2 weeks have been really crazy.
Yeah.
But it should be slowing down a little bit, not a whole lot.
But isn't that also just kind of like in life in general? Once you hit October, it's just pedal to
Dude.
the floor
Yeah.
until February.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on, just like with the holidays, and then with like and work. This is kind of like a weird season too, because it's where they're really busy or really slow on certain days, so it's really hard to plan for anything. But yeah, other than that, I'm chilling, man. We're making it. We're making it through. Josie, how's it going?
Good. Contrary to popular belief, this is my slow month. So
Wait, for ghost hunting?
for just life
Oh,
in
okay.
general, you know.
Okay.
I work Monday through Friday, nannying. But I have traveled somewhere every weekend pretty much since April, out of state. And this is the month where I have not.
Josie, that's 8 months.
Yes.
When you said that, I was like, oh, that's a couple months. That's 8.
9 states driven through 11. We drive everywhere too.
Word. So that's like 32 trips.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, and some of them are like the same place multiple times.
Right.
But some of them are also like Pennsylvania, Vermont, upstate New York,
Sure.
home within 4 days.
Right.
Oh, you did that when I was doing Jekyll and Hyde. Was that, or like after, like shortly after that? Because I remember we had talked.
August?
Okay, yeah. So shortly after the show. That's crazy. That's a crazy trip.
So like this is my slow month because places
Oh.
you know?
Everyone's doing
I hear ya.
tours.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is
This
my
is when
time
they
to
will
kind of
make
like
their money.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is my time to kind of like hang out,
Mm-hmm.
chill back a little bit. My friends are busy off doing their own things that they have to do for this month.
Mm-hmm.
And so none of us really want to travel right now anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our next adventure we'll probably figure something out here in the next couple of weeks to do.
Nice.
And then we're going to hit the ground running again. Hopefully beginning of November, but none of these places have heat or windows or
Sounds fun.
roofs.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you have to take that into consideration
Did you
too.
say roofs?
No.
Because the ghosts have to get in and out.
No.
Sorry.
They're just old.
Oh. Okay.
Like at the place I want you to go to with me next month, you can sit in the building and like look at the stars in some of the spots in the
Kind of
building.
love that though.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm just like, as much as I said I was like a skeptic, I'm also terrified of ghosts. Like if they are real, I'm so scared of them. Like, just kind of in general.
They're not
like,
gonna do anything to you.
I know, but it's just spooky. I don't know.
I'm not particularly worried about ghosts. Ghosts don't bug me too much. I'm worried about anything beyond ghosts. That's where I'm like, let's just seal off the whole dang thing.
Yeah.
That's just opening up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. It
You
is
know?
a different can of worms.
Yeah.
Completely different.
And that's
You're a paranormal investigator. You're not a demon investigator.
That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can get into that after this.
Right.
That's a conversation that we can have off air.
That's a conversation that if we start having it, the mics just go off or like
Yeah.
blow up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever's back there is just gonna walk out and just unplug from the wall.
Kevin?
I cannot tell you. I would probably just die.
I'd honestly gotta be excited.
Again, ironic.
Yeah. I would become a ghost instantly.
Can I talk to you if you do?
I will. Yeah. We'll need to debrief for sure.
The rest of your career is just talking to Matthew.
We could go places together.
Yeah. We can debrief for sure.
Perfect.
But I'd like to avoid that tonight specifically, if at all possible.
Yeah.
I got work in the morning.
Sounds good. Oh, me too.
Oh, so I can't turn into a ghost today. I'll have to take a rain check on that.
Am I allowed to look at my phone for a second? I need to ask them what time I work tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
You just go do that.
Cool.
Where were we? Oh.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, I threw it all off.
No,
I just need to
it's-
know what time I work tomorrow, and they go to bed at like
It is
9:30.
totally fine. On that note, Josie, I do have a question for you.
Of course.
Paranormal investigation. What does that look like? Kind of on a surface level for you, what's the draw to it for you? What are some places that you've been that you've really enjoyed or had some cool experiences in, and why should I come with you?
Okay, so, I mean, both of you have met my mother.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of know I grew up being a believer in paranormal. Like, she would take us on picnics at Cave Hill Cemetery when I was like 2. So, kind of always been drawn to paranormal and Halloween, all of that stuff. I mean, you've known me for a long time. You know that. Yeah. But for me, I just want to know more. I like the thrill of being in the buildings and learning the history about the places and learning about the people that lived there and trying to not help them in a way, but let them know that people haven't forgotten about them and aren't just there to be like, ooh, can you do this for me? You know, I want to go in there and talk to them and learn their stories if they're willing to share them and just learn everything I can about them and have fun with it at the same time. So, like, I'll go in there and play a game of Ring Around the Rosie if it's a children's room. And if they're willing to play a game, I read the books in the children's room to the children's. But then if you're in, like, a heavier spot where heavier things happened, you can always ask if they want to speak about anything that happened in that building to kind of let them get something off their chest. It's a way for them to tell their side of the stories as well for what happened in that building, because you never know if history's been skewed, if we got it right, you know, things like that. But also at the end of the day, it's kind of scary sometimes, and it's fun. And I've met my best friends doing this at this point too, who I didn't know at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I was just about to say, just based on your like online presence, it seems like it's a really cool community that you have of people who really enjoy the same thing, and I think that that's super cool.
It is. We kind of stumbled into one of the best friend groups I think we could have. Our friends, Steve, Dylan, Courtney, Trinity, like, they are the best people that we could have possibly met. Yeah, I know you got to do the little.
Do you want to plug their? You can say their Instagram stuff if you want to.
It would be.
Or we can just put it in the description.
We can
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
But they
Or
are.
you could just click it and.
Yeah, that's perfect.
They're some of the best, like, friends and mentors as well, because we started this year. Tim and I did, and so they've kind of taught us and, like, held our hands and taught us everything we need to know, and it's fun learning alongside of people who've been doing it for 14 years. You know, it's their job. It's what they love to do. And learning new ways of doing things as well.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
But yeah, like, a couple favorites would be Madison Seminary in Ohio, Indiana State Sanatorium in Indiana, obviously, Pine Lawn Manor, and as much as I hate to say that I love it, because I hate this building with my whole heart, but I love it at the same time, the Saratoga County Homestead.
I feel like there's a story there.
There's tiles.
Oh,
My tiles.
Your tiles are
My
in there.
tiles.
I got you.
Which leads me into something for the book later that I want to bring up that you said. So whenever you're ready to talk about it later, let me know.
Okay.
So, speaking of the book, which Josie just spoke of, do you think we should speak
About the
of
book?
the book?
I think that I would like to do that, Stephen. Josie, do you want to tell the audience what the book is that
like
you're
the
referencing?
honor?
Sure. Oh, are we? Oh, okay.
Just tell me.
We read Misery by Stephen King.
Yeah, we did.
Woo!
Yeah. Woo, baby.
Headphones.
Put those babies on, check the levels.
Still good.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, so we all three read Misery by Stephen King. I had never read it before. Stephen, you had never read it before.
Correct.
Josie, you had read it before.
I had, but it had been years.
Okay. So who wants to start? This is different because it's normally one of us will start and try to convince the other person to read the book, but we've all read the book.
So I just have something to say about
for it.
a
Do it.
TikTok that you made about it.
Haha.
When you finished reading the
Yes.
book that kind of ties into the ghost thing, you said that it's a perfect, like, spooky read because there's no, like, paranormal
Yeah.
ghosts or anything in it. It's just people. And something we say all the time is that the ghosts aren't scary. People are scarier than ghosts. And that is something we say all the time, because going back to the Saratoga County Homestead, that place, it gets broken into at least 4 times a day. Like, we went in the morning and at night, and somebody was there while we were gone in the middle of the day, and somebody broke in while we were there. And we had permission, and we're with people that work for that building.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end of the day, that's why I don't like the building.
Sure.
Because of the people, not the spirits. So that just reminded me of your TikTok that you made where you said it's spooky because it's about people.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's true. We say that all the time.
Well, I think that that's interesting because that was my biggest takeaway from this book is and something that I tried to articulate it, I think, in a shorter form for the TikTok that I made, but I couldn't really figure out how to say it, was the scary part about this book, like you said, is not it's not the paranormal, it's nothing otherworldly, it's people, and the reason that that's scary is because this could happen. You know, like it's something that could totally, not that it would happen or could happen, but it totally is something that is within the realm of possibility, that it's not too difficult to work up a picture for. And I think that for me is what really scared me about this book, because the way that I read it in the straight shot that I read it, I had this vivid movie in my head for what I was reading. I'd never seen the movie Misery, so it was all of my own kind of creation. But it was so vivid that was what scared me. Not even that it was a scary book, but because I could picture it happening so clearly.
Yeah.
Put any celebrity in the Paul in Paul's place, and you can see it, and that's terrifying. And I was reading Stephen King's autobiography. Autobiography? Which one's the
autobiography? He wrote it, right?
Memoir.
Yeah.
It's
Neither.
Yeah. But he basically is like, yeah, I guess Paul Sheldon's me. Like in this, like he was talking about, like, do you put other people in your stories? He's like, I guess in a way Paul Sheldon's me. Not that would ever happen, but I guess it could.
Right.
And I'm paraphrasing, and I don't remember exactly what he says in that, but it's something to that effect. And that, like, I had that going into reading the book, having never read it before, hearing him talk about it, and then going into reading it and being like, oh my God, that totally could be you.
Yeah.
And that brings me kind of to my next thing I wanted to talk about, was it was so fascinating to me that I was reading a book about an author who was writing a book, and the book that he was writing in the story is part of the book that I'm reading. That was wild, and it didn't really affect it that much, really.
Yeah.
But it was such a break from the actual action when you would read the parts of Misery's Return or whatever he was writing, that when we went back and Anne had come into Annie had come into the room, you're like, oh, I remember what's happening.
Yeah.
And when she would go away for the couple of days where she was gone, and he wrote like a bunch of the book, you read a bunch of the book, and then she comes back. And oh my God, I was so like, it took me so much out of what was happening that when I went back, I was so just pulled right back in immediately to being so scared.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, this is the third King book that I've read, so I'm not an expert on this. It's my favorite of the three.
Same. Same.
And I think because some of my criticisms of the other books that I've read by King, or really the longer one, Salem's Lot, is that it's too long, and that it is kind of, it feels like it doesn't need to be that long. This book feels perfectly timed, perfectly lengthed, perfectly written, almost. Like there's nothing about the book that I would be like, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty rare, I'd say. Like, I think a lot of books, you'll always have something you're like, I don't really dig that.
That was one of my takeaways as well, was I feel like this book has all of Stephen King's strengths and none of his weaknesses.
Because the ending is good.
The ending is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a thing we've talked about on, like, the 2 other times we've talked about Stephen King, or 3 other times, is that sometimes he does not land the plane with endings. But this one I love because it gives you... Do we spoil? Like, spoil-ish?
Sure.
So it gives you kind of a taste of both options, and you still get a resolution.
Closure,
Like, here's
for sure.
what actually happened factually, and yet you're still left with an uneasiness. And I think that's a perfect scenario for like a thriller horror type book, because for me, I hate just like the total open book ending sometimes.
I love those.
So I used to, and it's gotten to a point where I'm like, is it just kind of lazy? Sometimes I think there's a thematic point to it.
So you like the gray area kind of thing, like
I like closure.
okay.
I like, hey, land the plane.
Yeah.
Like, come up with an ending to your story. And if you can't, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I like the gray area.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
But it makes me mad, and I'll throw my book across the room.
Sure.
And then I'll call somebody and yell at them about it for a while, and they'll go, "I don't know what you're talking about, but continue your rant." And then I'll hang up, and then I'll pick up the book and be like, "Wow, that was really good."
Speaking of open book endings, this is a conversation that we will have later. Crown of Midnights. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk.
Crazy. The Throne of Glass series.
Yeah.
The second book.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. Yeah, I think. Sorry, I have a total aside. I think for me too. I'll have them.
Someone's pulling a sneaky back there.
She walked from the basement to her room because I think she thought we could see her.
There are other people in the house.
Yes.
What was I saying?
Open ending or closure.
Oh, I think I do prefer the closure because I think for me, unless it's a series. So if it's a longer series, I'm totally fine with a book ending with an open-ended ending. But if it's a standalone book, I gotta know what happens.
Yeah.
Like I don't really want to be thinking about it too deeply. I want to think about the book. I don't want to think about what could have happened after the book. Is my take on it. And I think you're exactly right. I think this does a good job because it does have a little bit of both. It has the closure and it has the effects too of what he goes through. So all of what he goes through leads up to the ending where he is understandably kind of unable to move on past where he's at until he and we don't know if he does this, but until he decides, okay, no, we're gonna write this down, we're gonna work through this, and we're gonna publish this book about what's going on, or what happened.
Also, quick pause. Misery is a book by Stephen King in which an author experiences a car crash and is taken in by a former nurse who lives in the middle of nowhere in Colorado. And then he quickly realizes that he is regularly being drugged and that the nurse is obsessed with him and his books. And then when she realizes that he has killed off her favorite character in her favorite book series of his, she becomes a little, shall we say, unhinged. And demands that he write another book in the series for her specifically in which that character comes back.
But he can't cheat it.
That comes into it as well.
Yeah.
And so that's the jumping off point. And there's a whole give and take and back and forth between them where he's trying to get the upper hand even though his legs are broken. He's basically he can't move. And so he thinks he can mentally outdo her, and then it kind of turns out that he can't. And so they're much more on equal footing than he thinks they are, and it just goes back and forth. And then she does some crazy stuff to him, and So I feel like the context of a brief overview of the story is helpful.
That's a good call. I remember what I was going to say. We talk about this all the time, and I'm really interested to see what you think about this as somebody who maybe has kind of experienced this in real life where you go to a place and you have this night and you are experiencing these things in this specific confined space. We talk about this all the time on the show. We love when books or movies have a setting that becomes a character. Or when a story takes place in such a confined area that where they are is just as important as who they are. So I'm curious, you had mentioned earlier, going to these places, trying to figure out what you can about the people who lived there or were there. how much for you in the ghost hunting, and I then we'll bring it back to the book because I just had a thought. How much of that for you is, how important is the setting for you in that scenario? Like where you are, like, does that affect your experience there? Does that change kind of what, or like the encounters that you have?
So that's a loaded question because, I mean, we'll use Madison Seminary as an example because that place, the bathrooms are haunted. So, like, things happen in the bathroom. So that changes your experience drastically. However, in the Civil War side of the building, there's one room that I just have a feeling in the pit of my stomach. I feel nauseous. I do not like it. I won't go in there. In that one room, I'll stand in the doorway. I'll sit in the room that faces it, but I won't go in there. Even though the person who they have themed this room after is like one of the most integral parts of the entire building. However, that also leads you into a rabbit hole of a question of, are these actual people in the building, or is this energy? And the energy that is residual and that we are bringing into the building and we are putting into the building every night by being like, this place is haunted. We are coming here. We are looking for ghosts. We are coming in here amped up. We are going to find something in this building tonight. Are we leaving this energy and these pieces of ourselves in these buildings every night because energy isn't destroyed? And the people that lived in the building also left this energy behind when they lived in the building. So is it the remnants of us wandering the halls and placing our equipment down in the same spots and them wandering the halls and making their bed every day? And who knows? It's really like the most unanswered question.
So this goes from Poltergeist to Interstellar like really fast.
We can go down a rabbit hole if you
fascinating.
want. But that's like one of my favorite things to think about as well. Because while I would love for it to be the people and to learn about it, and I do believe it is, in a lot of cases, I also love to think about, is it us? Are we leaving our energy? Is it the building's energy? Is it the people that did once live here, their energy being left here? You don't know. That's the thing. There's no way to know.
That's so cool.
And if your building leaves energy, you are a fire architect.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are rooms that I won't go in, and there are rooms that I feel completely comfortable in and have slept in, and there are rooms that I have left sleeping in and slept in the car for the rest of the night. So like it
depends.
Depends. Yeah.
That's so fascinating. So my thing too about that specific question is, I think even in my own personal life, the places I go and the places I go often do have some sort of like personal attachment to where I'm at, like my house, like my home. I've lived there forever. Or like my job, I've worked there for a long time. I feel comfortable there. I have memories and stuff attached to those places. So they play really important parts in my life, almost as if they are their own entity. And so I wonder if that, this is a complete aside to the book, sorry. I wonder if the reason that we resonate a lot with books that have specific places or specific settings is because we understand that settings are important and that places are important.
Well, and I think it plays into what you were talking about earlier. And my mind just went blank.
Come back. Mind Palace.
1953.
It's for the fans. It's for the fans. What was I saying when you had this thought?
So it's about the one location thing. I don't know where I was going with it, but I think it does make it easier for us to relate to, along the lines of what you were saying. It makes it easier to, this is what you were saying earlier, it makes it easier to visualize the setting because you're only in that one place. So you don't have to imagine any more than a single house and really just 2-3 rooms within it.
Yeah.
And then when you get like towards like later on in the book and like he gets thrown in the basement or whatever, that's like the first new room you've seen in hundreds of pages.
And it feels that way too.
Yes.
Like it feels important that
But
he's there.
Even the basement is pitch black most of the time, so your imagination has to do nothing except remember what it's like to be in a pitch black room.
Yeah.
And I think that's what plays into it is, one, like you were saying, how we associate memories over time with a location, and so the location takes on a characterization of its own.
Yeah.
In the same way in this book, you know, in the first, I guess, part of it, because it is split into four parts. I think it's three parts. Hold for fact check.
Holding.
Why didn't you look in the table of contents?
That's a great question.
Because there is none?
Nope, there is none.
Well, that's why, Steven.
Yeah. I should have.
My bad.
4.
4. Hey.
It's 4. Nice.
In the first part, there's a lot more like, okay, here's this room that I'm in, the guest room. I can see down the hall a little bit. I'm guessing there's a kitchen, there's a bathroom. And then when he gets out for the first time in his wheelchair, he explores 2 different rooms, and that's it. When he gets out a second time, he goes into the kitchen, and it's literally just like kitchen, bathroom, like living room.
Yeah.
And that's all he sees. He can't go upstairs where her bedroom is, so we never get access to her bedroom. And then it's not till closer to the end that we get access to the basement, and even then it's pitch black. So you literally just have to envision like an old farmhouse.
Yeah.
And that's not hard to do.
No.
And even if it is hard for you to do, you spend so much time there, and so much of the story takes place there that you can, over time, just like in real life, you associate more and more memories with the location. You can, over the course of the book, associate more and more of the pieces of the story with the specific rooms that they're in, and it makes it so much more like palpable.
Yeah.
Because your brain doesn't have to do this extra work of like creating the world with the author.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so we talk about fantasy a lot on our show. Even authors that are super descriptive, your brain still has to do a lot of work of putting a picture to the words that are written.
Oh, I need maps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have a map on my wall.
Yeah.
Perfect. Of what?
Throne of Glass.
I knew it.
So I can look up while I'm reading and be like, there they
Where is
are.
that? Oh,
Got
yeah,
it.
Yeah. That is helpful with Tolkien as well.
100%.
But yeah, so over time, like you just have this very easy sense of you can just go with the story.
Yeah.
You can just be in the shoes of the character because your brain is doing no work to visualize where you are because you're always in the same place.
Which I have a question for you guys. Do you think that she kept her bedroom as pristine as she kept the rest of her house? Because it makes me wonder, which I know that Stephen King probably wrote her bedroom on the second floor for story's sake so that he could hear the footsteps when she got out of bed, stuff like that. But it also makes me wonder if, because your bedroom's kind of like your sanctuary, you let it, most people, I don't know about you two, I do, let it get a little bit messier than the rest of your living space. I wonder if he had put it in the first floor, if you would have been introduced to her kind of mental state a little bit earlier in the book than you were if he had been looking around.
That's interesting.
I think I have the opposite point of view, though, because just based on how her mental state is described, I think the entire house probably ebbed and flowed with whatever part of her mania she was in. Or it seems very like bipolar, like a manic state and a depressive state. And so you notice he even describes like when she was in her depressive state, obviously his room went, to crap, and everything was strewn about the kitchen, and like everything was a mess.
Yeah.
But she was also forgetting to feed the animals. Like the whole area was a mess when she was in a depressive state. So I would tend to say that her bedroom probably anticlimactically followed the same pattern, where when she's in that manic state and that super upswing
super
state,
clean.
super clean, just like everything else. And when she's in the depressive state, now I'll bet the bedroom was probably 10 times worse than any other room in that house.
Yeah.
Along the lines of what you were saying. I feel like the bedroom is either going to be the cleanest room in the house on the good days, or it's going to be like the deepest pit of mess.
Which isn't that
on
crazy?
the bad days.
That's kind of like a universal thing.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know though, because it might be interesting if we got kind of a glimpse into her life, because I know that she didn't have guests or anything in the house, but I wonder if she is somebody who would be more apt to keep her living room and kitchen tidy and then put all of her mess in the bedroom.
Right.
I don't know. That's a good question though.
But the basement wasn't even like crazy or anything. It was pretty put together.
I don't know. I like panic cleaned my room, even though we're filming out here, because I wanted to show you guys my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And I was like,
very cool.
I was like, God, clean
Very
before
cool
you guys
bookshelf.
came over.
So if you open the closet,
I dusted and everything. Like,
you dusted?
oh, all of everything
Wow.
in my room. Dusted at 3 a.m.
dust would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, I
You could vibe
dusted.
with dust. It's the Spooktacular.
Yeah.
You want me to go get it?
It's in the closet.
You still have it?
It's in the trash can, actually.
I was gonna say something else. Shoot.
Oh,
was it? I think too. The main character being so helpless adds to a lot of the scary factor for me, because I had no idea if, not to say either way, but I had no idea what was going to happen at the end. Like I honestly, the whole time I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there would be moments where I'm like, oh, this is going to end really well. And there were moments where I was like, this is not good.
Because the rug gets pulled out from under you a few times.
Yeah. Which I love that.
Yes.
Like, I think that it was really a roller coaster for me, because I really had no idea what to think about what was happening. So I think that was really cool for me, and a big part of another reason why I was able to read it so quickly is because I had to know for sure.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen a whole lot for me, where I have to like finish a book in the sitting that I'm finishing it that I'm reading it, because I have to know.
Yeah.
Or have to do a podcast.
But again, how much does that play into not just is the location confined, but the goals are so clearly defined.
Get out of the house.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so all you're driving at, the tension just builds and builds and builds through the whole thing. And there's these twists and turns of like, oh, he's gonna school her.
Yeah.
He's gonna get out of here. It's gonna be fine. And then it's like, oh, she's known about this thing the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, door's
she
locked.
knows what he's up to. Yeah.
Every door. Sorry.
Yeah. The tension builds, but it will only ever have one outlet.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drives
That's
the
such a good
intensity
thought,
of it
too.
is there's only one of two ways that it can go.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also because you have his inner monologue throughout the whole book, because there are so few characters.
Yeah.
There are the main characters and the ones that he's making up in his mind.
Yeah.
Throughout most of the book.
yeah,
So you have him and his inner monologue through most of it, and you kind of see his inner monologue go through the whole time too.
Yeah.
Because kind of like how he describes her mood swings as like the tide, his honestly kind of goes like the tide too,
Yeah.
based on his pain levels.
Well, there's
Yeah.
even moments where like, he might just phone it in and jump out the window. Like there was moments where I was like, I don't know if if his character is gonna want to keep going. You know what I mean? Like moments where I didn't know if he even wanted to get out of the house anymore.
Well, and he talks about
Yeah.
like I could take all of the pills that I stored away.
Yeah.
And
There's
just
multiple
fade
moments.
off.
There are multiple moments where he's like, I do not know if I have the desire anymore to live.
Yeah.
Which is tough to read from a character who at also moments has intense desire to kill this person and like to get out and make it out and make it happen.
Yeah.
So it really is. It's very real. I don't know any other way to say it. It's very like
It's raw.
yeah. it's very honest. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, which I think is super cool, and I think it makes his character a lot more interesting.
Well, and because there's so much inner monologue, you get the sense of like how you have an inner monologue, right? So it's unfiltered. So at no point are you trying to think like, okay, well, he's just saying it this way because he's talking to this character and this is the nature of their relationship. None of that filter applies. It's just, oh, here's what he thinks.
Yeah, yeah.
But you never get her inner monologue, which I mean,
Oh,
as much as I would love to hear it, I feel like she's so unfiltered in some of her episodes
yeah.
that
Yeah.
you don't need her inner monologue, because when she is at her highest of highs, she's probably saying everything that she's thinking.
That's
Yeah.
such a good point.
And when she's at her lowest of lows, she's also saying everything that she's thinking.
Yeah.
So it's like, it almost seems to me like you don't need her inner monologue because she doesn't have one that is any different than what she's speaking out loud.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
While
such a good point.
he is filtering so much because he's playing nice and doing what he can to get by in that house without teetering off the edge that
Yeah.
has been created
Wow, yeah,
by her.
yeah. I think that's spot on.
He's trying to like see if he can recover. He's trying to maintain his sanity. He's trying to keep it an appearance for her. He's trying to write a freaking novel.
Yeah.
Um,
On a typewriter without keys.
Yeah.
She's just trying to get her novel because it becomes very apparent, like after one of their first altercations, that she's not committed to making it through this experience alive. Like, she wants her book, and she
And
will
that's it.
bail. And then when she swings into the depressive episode, she maybe doesn't even care about the book.
How chilling was it for her to be like, we could just both be done now. Like, I could go get the gun. Like, we could just call it, you know?
And he has to like cling to the life of this character that he hated so much that he killed
Yeah.
off. He has to like
He
cling
knows
to
that
her
that's
like a
his
life
only
jacket.
way out.
Yeah.
But by the end, he knows that this is like the best book he's written
Yeah.
too.
Isn't that crazy?
Which
Yeah.
is wild
Yeah.
because he states it himself in his inner monologue
Yeah.
that it is the best of any of the misery books
You
that
even
he has written.
I think you almost see him,
Loving it.
like enjoying writing the book.
How much? Okay, this is a spoiler, so like skip ahead by like a minute now. But how great is it that he didn't actually burn the book?
I know. Oh my goodness.
That he burned a stack of paper
Yeah.
and she bought it.
Yeah, it's a good thing he asked for two reams.
Dude. Because I thought he just burned it.
Yeah, I did too.
Like,
I'll be honest, I think I didn't finish the book the first time I read it because the entire, like, this much of the book was like, whoa, what is going on? I don't know how I put it down
yeah.
with that much left, but apparently little high school me just was like, meh, because the entire ending, I was like,
So intense.
Whiplash.
Oh my goodness.
I was
Yeah,
like, how did I
So
put this
intense.
down the first time?
Yeah, I was on the edge of the 5 different seats I sat in when I was reading this book. Each time, I was. Oh my goodness, because it's such a it's a roller coaster. Parts of it are super chill, super tame, and then the next page, it's Armageddon, and everything's blowing up, and everybody's gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, it's so quick to change tone that I just, oh my god, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
I also loved that his language in his inner monologue switches towards hers at some point in
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah.
He adopts a lot of
he
her
adopts
from
her
Busy
his-
bird.
phrases,
Yeah.
and I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know it shouldn't because like that's how you know.
No.
Well, and he
It's
still
creepy.
does it.
It is.
Like,
yeah.
after she's gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's just like, she is
it's
a part of him.
conditioning type
chills.
thing. It's
I got
conditioning
chills
at that
just
point.
now.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
He never got out of the cock-a-doodie cock.
No.
That's my favorite. Like,
Cock-a-doodie.
yeah. That's my favorite line, but it's in the movie too.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have seen the movie.
Yes.
I was going to ask that earlier,
I saw
and
the
then
movie
I didn't.
first.
I've never seen the movie.
And it's like one of my favorite horror movies.
It's a great movie.
A lot for a lot of the same reasons as
I'm
the book is so
partial
good.
to The Shining, which is another.
I haven't watched that one yet, but I have it on VHS, so I'm gonna watch it on VHS.
I'll watch it with
Oh.
you whenever you watch it.
Okay.
I want to see it too.
Okay.
So good.
I also want to watch Misery. I've never seen it, so
I also have that on VHS.
I'll watch it with you whenever you want to watch it.
Okay.
You're also invited, Josie. Tim can come
Okay.
too.
We need a marathon.
Perfect.
Like
That
a,
would be
a
fun.
Stephen King marathon.
That would be fun.
Only the hits.
We could investigate at the Stanley Hotel.
I've been there.
I haven't.
Yeah, I've been there. We were in Colorado, and I don't think we went into it. But I have been to it.
Well, it's haunted, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Speaking of haunted things, last thing. Will you tell us a story?
Of course. Oh, which one?
Tell us the one. Okay. Tell us the one about the one that just happened recently.
Okay.
And then I will add. I will add the audio clip.
Okay. So, a couple weeks ago, we were at two buildings up in Ohio, Fairfield County Infirmary and Madison Seminary, the one I was talking to you about earlier in this. And both are owned by the same people, had some of the most back and forth, full conversation activity that we've had in a while through multiple different methods. Estes method, which is where, like I explained earlier, headphones, blindfold, can't hear anything, can't see anything, you're listening to a spirit box, asking questions, that sort of thing. We first heard at Fairfield that somebody is able, or multiple spirits are able to travel between all these buildings with different people because they're all owned by the same people or the same person. So we found that interesting. Then I was getting cold in certain spots around me, even though I was back in a concrete room with no windows. And immediately the girl who was under in the Estes session goes, "Oh, that was me." And I was like, "Okay, you can do it again." Immediately got cold again. We put a device that tracks temperature next to me. It dropped every single time I felt my side go cold. And every time she'd say, "That was me, that was me," every time. So that freaked me out a little. Then we moved to Madison, which is about 3 hours away the next day. And we're in a room with a hole dug into the ground. We call it the whole room.
Fitting.
There were, long story short, there were thought to be human remains down there. So people dug a hole, never filled it in. It's kind of just stayed there in the floor. And we're in there multiple times before this day as well. And we have heard whispering from the same corner of the room when nobody's been standing there, or people who have been standing there have heard it behind them.
Oh.
So we heard that. Then we did a recording on a voice recorder called the DR60, which is like the holy grail of all recorders in the ghost hunting community.
Is that the $4,000 one?
Yes. Sometimes
3,000.
3.
On eBay.
And we ask questions, and we stay silent after each question for 10 to 15 seconds, and then you ask your next question. Hypothetically, it is supposed to just roll straight into the next question because nobody's speaking in between them. It's voice activated. We were asking our questions. My friend Courtney asked a question, and then you hear clear as day a male's voice whisper, "You all get out." And we didn't hear it in the room, so we listen back. We all freak out.
And I'm going to insert it at some point here.
Did you just scream it up? Do you want us out of this room or out of the building? Okay, great.
We all run out of the room. We did get out of the room, obviously.
Good call. Good call.
So we leave the room, and then 2 hours later, myself, Tim, and our good friend Reagan decide to go back in there, investigate a little bit more. We're like, we want to see what's happening. We go in there. Our REM pod, which is a device that has an antenna on it. You have to be about this far away from it for it to go off. Starts going off. in the same spot it had been in earlier where it never went off. We were like, well, that's a little curious. That hasn't gone off all night tonight. So we put that there. We start asking, like, do you want to use the recorder? It stops going off. That's a no in our eyes. So we were like, okay, we have flashlights. Starts going on. We put out the flashlights on and off, answering questions with the flashlights. We do an Estes. Clear as day answers the whole time. Seemed like a completely different person that we were talking to, though. Like, this was very willing to talk to us and seemed more childlike in a way, whereas they were playing with the equipment, like playing around when they were answering us in a way, instead of telling us to get out in a scary voice. So we eventually, after like an hour almost, pack it up, leave, go investigate around the building some more. At about 4 a.m., go back into that building, set everything up in the exact same spots. Nothing happens. No recordings on the voice recorder. No activity. Nothing. So, sorry.
You're good.
So proceeded to sleep in that building in the lobby.
Could not be me.
On a Victorian couch. Worst sleep of my life, about 2 hours long.
They're not comfortable.
It also, when you do this, dust flies up.
Oh,
I
Checks
had
out.
no couch, no pillow, no blanket, somebody snoring.
Somebody.
You know who you are.
Not a ghost.
Kevin.
And was just laying there on the couch watching the sunrise through the windows and listening to footsteps above me and then outside in the hallway when I knew for a fact that we were the only 4 people in the building. So we had locked up for the night and nobody else had come in those doors to go into the building for the day, and we were at the front entrance.
And it definitely wasn't a large rat.
No.
Okay. Because it was only
So-
2 feet.
It was 2 feet.
Instead of
It sounded like a slight heel was on it because it's like concrete floors and a lot of the, or like carpeted floors.
You're
in
going
some
to
of
hate
it.
this, but I'm just picturing a rat with heels on.
Ooh, you know? But my friend Courtney woke up at one point
That's
and heard
also
the footsteps
scary.
too.
It is.
Because Courtney in the morning was like, I heard footsteps. And I was like, oh, Courtney, I was awake. Don't you
I was
worry.
there. Don't worry about it.
I was wide awake.
Oh, Lord. That's
So-
a little scary.
And that's where our REM pod is currently. So now I'm waiting to get that back.
Yeah. That's wacky.
You want to go there?
What would be crazy is if
No.
you had left like one of your recorders there, and when you get it back, there's just like a whole monologue.
Yeah. Or like, you know that scene from SpongeBob where they're having the house party with the jellyfish? And it's that like rave music. Dun, 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 dun. What if it was just that? Both of those scenarios I'm fine with.
Well, I was shown a video of one of the lights in the basement of that building, like strobing. And
Oh.
when the employee went down to turn it off, the light switch was off. He unscrewed the light bulb and then went over to the breaker, and the breaker was off to all the basement.
Oh my goodness.
So he still can't figure out why the light was strobing.
What would be crazy is if the light strobed in his hand.
That's what I thought you were gonna say, and then
That's
I was
what I
like,
was
"You've
ready for.
convinced me."
No. He also shown me videos of him like the doors opening and shutting like when he asked them to, but they're like the tiny ones that hold the fire hydrant type thing in a wall.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's been like, okay, open it, and it'll swing open a little bit, and he's like, now shut it, and it slams shut, and he's like, now open it, and it'll swing open, like on command. That place
How-
is interesting.
That is interesting, but my brain goes to another place. How annoyed must ghosts be? That they've potentially been dead for hundreds of years, maybe just decades, but multiple people, more than likely, have come in and been like, hey, you, do a thing, you know, whatever the case may be. And probably most people are not as respectful about it as you are, right? You got to figure. You were telling a
There's a
story
toss-up.
earlier. Yeah, you were telling a story earlier about how you ran into like a group of high school kids in the middle of an investigation.
I
Like,
mean, people in that building go and knock down walls.
Yeah,
The one I
I'm-
was telling you about.
I'm sure that's insanely frequent. So imagine, if you will, you're a ghost.
I'm imagining it. I'm on
Yep.
Mind Palace.
Mind Palace, yeah.
I got in there earlier, so I'm still there.
And this guy, the custodian, is just like, hey, open that thing?
Well,
Like,
it was already
all right.
opening and shutting before he.
Oh, so he
asked
just
him.
It was
just
just-
kind of
he
went
was-
with
He
it.
was
Yeah.
actually sweeping the floor,
Yeah.
was hearing a noise behind him, turned, saw it shutting, freaked out, kept sweeping, turned, saw it was open,
Honestly-
and then took out his phone and was like, "Can you do that again?"
That is significantly
And then it just
scarier.
kept going.
Yeah.
That is significantly scarier for
It's
me.
because we have this theory. We have a couple theories. I told you one of them earlier, but that if you are just having a conversation like this with your friends, when your guard is down, that's when the most is going to happen, because you're not walking around being like, okay, I'm ready. I want something to
Show me
happen
some ghost.
right now. When your guard is down, that's when things are going to happen. Like, we've been walking down a hall just like casually having a conversation in between rooms that we're going to investigate in. We've heard footsteps run up behind us. When you turn and there's nobody back there.
I would. Oh my gosh.
So
I would.
it's one of those things where like you have to be alert at all times, but not fully aware
Yeah.
at all times, because then you're constantly going to be like, okay, when's something going to happen? And then
You have to
nothing's
kind
going
of
to
like
happen.
stay calm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went up to the attic at Fairfield County a couple weeks ago and just sat and gossiped for like an hour and listened to footsteps in the room through the doorway, and then listened to like creaks of like what sounded like a window opening, and we were like, well, hello. Nobody answered. Okay.
Yeah.
Went back to our conversation, because that's when they're comfortable. That's when we're comfortable, because we're not 100% like,
right. Like looking
show
for.
us
yeah.
something, you know?
Yeah.
It's a comfortable experience for everybody, you know?
Right.
But I mean, then we do have
And if
times
they
where we sit down and we're like, okay, hi, we're going to communicate with you. My name's Josie. None of this is going to hurt you. None of this is going to harm you. Here's how all of it works. Are you okay with communicating with us?
Yeah.
All of that type of stuff.
And if they were people, it makes sense that the same like social rules
Yeah.
sort of apply.
Yeah,
Also, like respect.
exactly.
Like respect for the dead. Respect for like people.
Respect for the custodial staff
Yeah.
asking requests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like a joke, but I'm kind of like halfway serious about that. Like a person who regularly works there takes care of the place.
One of
Yes.
the ghosts or spirits in the basement at the homestead is one of the custodians or the like caretakers of the property. And when we're down there, we hear dragging noises. And he is one of the like guards, though. And then there's another one in the children's wing of that place, because it was a tuberculosis hospital. In the children's wing is a female nurse that like is said to scare people off from up there, because she is wondering why you are in the children's ward,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say. I wonder how much of your, if you, I don't know what the process of becoming a ghost is. I know you have to probably die first, but like other than that, that's a whole other thing.
The forms.
Yeah.
God.
Lot of
nightmare.
lot of red tape you gotta get through to get to be a ghost. But I wonder if you carry like your whatever you were doing in your life with you to your next thing.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many questions that I don't know if we will ever have the answers to, you know? And we can investigate for years and years to come and try to find the answers to these questions, but I don't think that anybody will ever be able to definitively
Definitively
say, I have figured out what ghosts are, how they become a ghost,
How
all
they
of the-
interact with our world.
Exactly. I'm not sure that anybody will ever be able to definitively have an answer to that,
Yeah.
at
Right.
least in my generation, or while I'm here,
Yeah.
because I'm just not sure that there is an answer that we are aware of at this day and age.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that to say that nobody will ever find out? No. Can everybody have different theories than what I have said during this podcast? Of course.
Yeah.
We have some outlandish theories that we love to just spitball back and forth while we're wandering these
Yeah.
hallways in the dark.
Sure.
But that's what makes it fun. It's the wondering, and it's the not knowing, that makes it really fun. Because I could say that I'm talking to Bob over there. Who's to say that I am?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Who's to say I'm not talking to myself last week when I was there?
Yeah.
Putting down equipment in that same spot. Or an investigator a month ago. Or another spirit that is in the building. That
Kevin.
is just... Or Kevin, you know?
Possibly it's Kevin.
It's a whole thing.
Typically, it's
Yeah.
Kevin.
And it makes you think a lot. But it's fun.
Well, it sounds really rewarding, just like from the perspective of like you get to maybe experience something, but also like like kind of what you were saying earlier, like give ghosts an opportunity to talk to you about their life or their like how they died or whatever. Like,
And I mean, I'm always hesitant to bring up death when speaking with them because
sure.
I don't know if that's a touchy subject or not.
Yeah.
You know?
I would imagine it might be.
I mean, some people I investigate with bring it up. I haven't personally, but I've been in a building where we've asked asked on a recorder, like, where are all the patients? And we got an answer back that said they're all dead. And we were like, excuse me? So who's walking around down there? Because we're seeing shadows move. So...
That's fascinating.
You know, it's just something that it's about. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. And like Tim's a history minor,
Sure.
so we love to hear all of the history about these buildings too. But it's like we're going into these buildings that were built so long ago and they've been used for so many different things, and a lot of them still have the furniture in them or like the medical devices in them, or like we went to West Virginia State Penitentiary, which is a massive jail that obviously they don't house inmates in anymore. But we had free roam of the jail for 9 hours overnight. Like I sat in the cells in the like maximum security wing by myself in the room like everybody was outside the door and I was by myself in the maximum security wing of this prison. I was like, who else is like, not a lot of other people can say that they've done this.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah. That's so sick. And I like, so for me personally, I'm so ignorant to all of this. Everything you've said has been like very interesting and very like eye-opening for me about the whole process. So thanks for
Of course.
explaining
And like
everything.
you're gonna have nights where nothing happens.
Sure.
Like we went to Waverly Hills, our first investigation ever. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And everybody that we're friends with that went that same night that we are now friends with and we didn't know then was like, that was the quietest night of investigating ever.
Yeah,
And
even I have a Waverly story.
Exactly. Everybody has a Waverly story but me.
Yeah.
Everybody
don't.
was like, it was the quietest night of investigating ever. So we're excited to try and get back into there.
Yeah.
But Waverly is notoriously haunted, and we had nothing happen there.
Yeah.
But after everybody in the group left, our friends had stuff happen to them when it was 4 of them taking everything down and getting ready to leave. So it's one of those things where it's a hit or miss time.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Everything's
really
just got to
cool.
be hit or miss, you know?
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't have another question, but I do have a statement.
Okay.
Ooh.
The statement is, is there anything final that you would like to say to give to our audience, whether it be a heartfelt message or a promo of yourself, or both,
Or a knock-knock joke.
or a knock-knock joke,
All three are acceptable.
or a song?
Not a song.
Those are the 4 options.
Book recommendation.
Or a book recommendation,
Ooh. Okay.
or what you're reading right now. Whatever you want to say,
Bro,
Josie.
what are you reading right now?
So, I actually am not reading a book right now. I wanted to keep... Because I read this. I
You wanted
reread
to keep it
this
fresh in your brain.
Sunday. I wanted to keep this as fresh in the brain as I could. So, I read this Sunday.
We both read it last Sunday.
Real quick, though, I do just want to take this real quick. This picture of Stephen King makes me cackle. This is so funny. I love him.
So I read this Sunday. So I'm not reading anything right now, but book recommendation is Kill Creek. I don't know who it's by.
Kill Creek.
It's on my bookshelf back there, but it's called Kill Creek. It is dark and twisted and phenomenal. I'll let you look at it after this.
Yeah, please do.
It's so good. But thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for
Thanks for being on.
And for letting me be the first guest for Halloween.
Who else could it have been?
Who else? I can't think of other people.
I cannot think of a better guest to have on.
Well,
at Halloween
thanks. But if you want to keep up with my spooky paranormal adventures, I post on my TikTok, which is at Josie Tegethoff. I'm probably linked down
It'll be
below
linked.
because
Yeah,
nobody
link
can
it
spell
below.
my
No one
last
can
name.
spell Tegethoff.
Yeah.
Nobody can
Just
spell
guess.
Tegethoff.
You are
and-
still. Can I?
Yes.
Sidebar. You are still in my phone as Josie parentheses tech because I wasn't introduced
I was
to
in
Josie.
your wedding.
You were in my wedding. I was introduced
Okay,
to
let me
Josie.
real quick. The reason that we all met was we worked at a theater together, and she did tech for a show that he was working on. And you're telling me
That is years ago.
a
Years ago,
decade
okay.
later.
This is because
I was in your wedding.
she was a student at North Oldham High School, and so I helped run stuff at North
Yeah.
Oldham because we had contract, whatever, boring. And someone volunteered for one of the shows that season where I worked full time. It was like, hey, we've got this person over at North. She loves doing tech stuff, so she might be willing to help out with this show. I know you're looking for people. I was like, okay, great. What's her name? What's her number? I'll shoot her a text later. And so her name's Josie. Did not say the last name. Gave me the
Because he
number.
didn't know it.
And
For
so
sure
I
didn't know it.
literally just put Josie parentheses
Tech.
tech so that I
That's
would remember who this person was
hilarious.
for.
Well,
And I have never changed it.
never change it ever.
Never. Yeah,
then.
No, I can at this point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're set.
Yes.
I want to make one final comment. This is so unrelated. It's hilarious, but my brain just had to say it. I like the couch. I like the couch vibe. Like the show on the couch, I think it works.
Perfect.
Just as an aside. Anyway,
The only other thing I was gonna say is I hit 1,000 followers on TikTok last
Whoa.
night.
Woo!
So
she can live stream.
from here on out, I will be live streaming portions of our paranormal investigations,
Nice.
service willing, phone
knows?
service willing.
You
Right.
might see me.
We're gonna ghost hunt
Maybe.
together.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I'm broadening my horizons anyway. Trying new things. Maybe ghost hunting's on the list.
Better be.
We're like broadening
Mm,
your horizons.
interesting.
Hmm.
Broadening. I don't know if I like it.
And speaking of broadening, bro. Read this
Read
book?
this book?
Yeah, I
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it.
I think that's it. I mean, there's the stuff we always tell you to do, like subscribe,
Share.
share,
Follow Josie.
follow Josie.
That's a new one.
Yep.
One-time thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
We will never mention you again.
Never
At
again.
least
Dead
not-
to us.
Not maybe until next Halloween.
Yeah,
That's fine.
easily.
I may have another.
what though? That was crazy.
I have
What
an
were you
idea.
gonna say?
In your next Halloween Spooktacular episode, in a haunted building, recorded in a haunted building.
Not a bad idea.
That's a thought.
What I was gonna say is I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Gotcha.
that's crazy. It's just gone.
Yeah.
It was not super important. I don't think.
Good.
Yeah. Cool.
Like, subscribe, do the things, plug us on the socials, show us some love.
I remembered. We have mentioned you on the podcast before when we talked about when your lung collapsed.
Yes.
That she was the other person that was there
Yep.
when I made the joke about your car bumper.
Yeah.
So I had to just remind everybody that it happened.
You have no idea
There you
how
go.
hard I was laughing when I was listening to
think
that episode.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that I had. Sorry, that was my last thing.
I love it.
Finish this.
Okay. All right. I think all we would really have left to say is now this is podcasting.
Podcasting.
Okay. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye.